Hello and welcome to Talking Scheidt once again, live on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for tuning in today. Of course, we're here to discuss all things Scottish Cup semi-final weekend. 2 games to pour over. Of course, Celtic yesterday overcoming Rangers once again to reach the final. And of course, Inverness, Caledonian Thistle, their 3-0 win over Falkirk on Saturday confirmed their place as well for the final in June. So we'll touch on both games in this episode. And with me to do that, of course, is Ryan McDonald and Mark McDougall. Chaps, you all right?
And you guys, thank you.
Nice one. Right, okay, we'll just go straight into the game. Yesterday at Hampden, a 1-0 win, of course, for the Hoops, and it keeps their treble hopes alive this season. Ryan, I mean, you have to say, I mean, once again, Celtic went really sort of mind-blowingly good against Rangers in the derby. Like a couple of the games this season, but they just have that grit over Rangers just now, don't they? And they have that sort of edge mentally over their rivals at the moment, and it's getting them over the line, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think, to put it bluntly, I think just the Celtic squad's just far superior to Rangers at the minute. Rangers have made several defensive errors over the last couple of games alone, and it's proved costly. I think Celtic have just got too many kind of players that are capable of making a difference in the big moments. You look at Jota, compare him to Ryan Kent. When's the last time Ryan Kent had turned up? A big game. I know obviously he scored at Ibrox in the January encounter, but his overall numbers in big games this season and in seasons gone by haven't been good enough. And Jota's now, I think that's his 4th or 5th derby goal now, which is hugely impressive. And if Kyogo has that off day like he did, yesterday, then somebody always steps up. I'm not sure that's the case with Rangers. Morelos and Kent are, in the previous seasons they've been the Rangers' biggest assets, and again they just were nowhere to be seen yesterday. They're non-existent. So I just think that Celtic have just got too much quality in the minute, and as Michael, I think that's perfectly a fair and accurate assessment as well, because Michael Beale said at the end of, in his press conference after the game, it's going to be the biggest rebuild that the club has seen in years. So that kind of tells you all you need to know. I know a lot of people go on about, the gap isn't that big between Celtic and Rangers, and they might judge the score lines and say, well, it's been tight affairs. But I think if you look at it over the course of the season, Celtic are 15 points clear. We're on the verge of a 5th treble in 7 years. I think the gap is big. I think it needs to be addressed by Rangers in the summer.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just from a Rangers point of view, obviously, you just have to say that yesterday encapsulated what's been a demoralising season for Rangers, across, many competitions. If you count in the Champions League as well, of course, the league and the cup competitions. But, I mean, what did you make of yesterday and how it sort of unfolded from a Rangers point of view?
Yeah, I feel like I'm repeating the same points I made last week, where it just kind of summed up the entire Rangers season. They can't take their own chances, and they gift up chances at the back far too easily.
Yeah.
I think obviously you had that big Sakala chance in the second half, which should have made it one each. It was an awful miss, and then the mistake for the goal was just it's offensive to schoolboys to say it was schoolboy defending. It was just so bad. Fair enough if one player maybe switches off, but for I think maybe even 5-6 players to switch off the way they did, it's completely unacceptable. And I don't think Michael Beale can be blamed too much for that, because that's on the players. That's not on the manager or the tactics. I think he's got the tactics pretty well the last couple of games. I think you've seen it again yesterday, and it was the same in the game at Celtic Park, where he's kind of sat Malik Tillman on Cal McGregor, and it went well. McGregor wasn't really getting on the ball until after Tillman went off. They didn't really manage to do the same when he went off. But prior to that, I thought they did all right. Like I say, it was just really that one moment where they made that blunder and Celtic punished them, and that's been the biggest difference all season, I think, is that Celtic are ruthless and Rangers just aren't at all. Like I say, it's kind of what I said last week, and sort of the same thing when we get up in Aberdeen, where they just made a couple of mistakes and they just couldn't take their chances. And it has been the story of the season. I think there's not really been anything for Rangers to celebrate this season since beating PSV back in August. That's probably the last time you could say that Rangers fans were probably happy with the team. Since then, it's just been disaster after disaster, week in, week out. to end up going, I think it was 9 points behind Celtic at the World Cup break. The league was over by then.
Yeah.
The performances against Celtic just haven't been good enough. And it just that game yesterday just sums up the whole season. I think Rangers fans are just looking for the whole campaign to be finished now and start again in the summer.
Yeah, without a doubt. But Ryan, let's just have a wee look at Celtic and their individual performances yesterday. Of course, you kind of done the ratings for Football Scotland yesterday at the match, and you gave Carter Vickers and Maeda your man of the match, both 9s. Just tell us from sort of your point of view, being at the game, why they sort of stood out yesterday against Rangers.
I think Cameron Carter Vickers, first of all, well, Ange Postecoglou named both of those players. He actually picked both of those players out for special praise at the end of the game as well. So I think the 9s were. I'm always reluctant to give more than 8, especially in occasions like this. But I felt both of those players warranted, 9s for their part. So in terms of Cameron Carter Vickers, I think he's the most important player in Celtic's team. He's an absolute rock. I know that. Previous generations of Celtic fans will go on about, Paul Elliott and how he was the best defender they'd seen. But, I think if you're looking at the modern day teams, I struggle to think of a better central defender that Celtic have had in Cameron Carter Vickers. And I do include Virgil van Dijk in that. We all know that Virgil van Dijk's gone on to achieve, his world-class status, a Champions League winner, Premier League winner. He's a superstar, a global superstar, but even he was culpable of a few mistakes, especially in Europe at Celtic. And I remember he got sent off against Inter Milan at a key point in the San Siro when Celtic were they were well in the game, and then obviously they fell apart with that because you just don't win with 10 men at the San Siro. So he was guilty of a few ropey moments, but Carter Vickers, I just can't recall one time where he's put a foot wrong. He's just been absolutely outstanding. He's a colossal presence. He's not exactly, he's not in terms of his actual kind of height. He doesn't. I think he's about 6'1". Yeah. He's not exactly a gigantic defender, but his muscles, his sheer presence in the box. I can't ever recall him, losing a header. He's an absolute beast. He's a warrior. And special praise as well has got to go to Carl Starfelt. I think I don't think Celtic have lost a domestic game with those two. And it's a Scottish League game, should I say, with those two playing at the back. And I think he can be a whipping boy at times, but again, he was outstanding yesterday. Won everything that was Rangers were throwing everything in the box, and he seemed to just clear up everything and mopped up everything. So yeah, I think Carter Vickers was outstanding, but I decided to go with Dyson Maeda for man of the match. Doug's disagreed with me on this one this morning, but I just think his work rate is just unbelievable. I've never seen a player run so much in my life. I've watched thousands of football games, and Maeda's work rate and his relentless running and his lightning quick pace, it's unbelievable. And you can see what he brings to the team. Ange's motto is "We never stop," obviously, and that was it was clear as day yesterday. The Rangers players stopped thinking it was going to be a foul, and Dyson Maeda nipped in, whipped the ball into the back post and picked out Jota. Maeda could have actually had 2 assists in the day because Jota obviously fluffed the earlier chance with a bad touch in the back post, and even towards the end of the game he was chasing back, to defend as well. He's just a workhorse. And I think, again, he's arguably one of the most important players in Ange Postecoglou's team. I think there's a bit of debate at times whether he should start ahead of Jota or Abada or whoever else is, or even Ivanovic. But I think Maeda's one of the first names in the team sheet for Celtic, and I think that will continue for a while yet.
Yeah, his work rate is ridiculous, quite frankly. Doug's just on Rangers again. I mean, Mark Hendry, obviously the deputy editor for Football Scotland, he was at the game yesterday and he done the sort of Rangers ratings. And obviously it's fair to say that nobody got very high scores, of course. Morelos getting a 5, Kent getting a lowly 4. Obviously, after the game as well, Chris Sutton and the likes of Neil McCann, they were on record slating the pair. But obviously you wrote a piece this morning for us about them both, saying that their sort of legacies, in the eyes of the fans are in tatters now. That is quite a damning statement for 2 big Rangers players, over the last kind of few years. It's a damn statement, that, isn't it?
It isn't, but it's been coming all season. I think right at the start of the season, obviously Morelos had his problems with Van Bronckhorst and got dropped out of the team, and it never really recovered from that. And it's kind of been the same with Kent. It feels like the two of them knew that this was going to be their last season and they were going to be moving on, and have never really put in the same effort that they did in previous years. And like I said, Murphy said that the two of them should be remembered for winning the league and for the first time in a decade getting the club to a European final, because and both of them, the two of them were excellent. I think up until Morelos got injured last year against I can't remember who it was now, Red Star Belgrade it was. Just against, and he was excellent in that run. The Borussia Dortmund game over there, he was superb. Ryan Kent the same. In fact, that whole run, Ryan Kent was just excellent, but he's just not even got close to it this season. And it's not even just the performance. You can accept a player going out of form, but the two of them just don't seem to be putting in the same effort that they have in the past. And I think fans ever accept that. And I think the fact that Kent got taken off at half time yesterday, when in the past you'd have left him on, because even if his numbers aren't great, he's got something about him that he can create something that might set somebody else up to go through and create a chance or stuff like that. But when he came off at half time, nobody was bothered by it because he just hadn't been very good. And he was also partly at fault for the goal, because he for some reason starts running the other way instead of going back and getting the ball when it goes free. And then Morelos as well, what was it, like 10 minutes to go, he got taken off for Yanis Hadji, and there was louder cheers from Celtic fans than anything else. But I think when you're taking your main striker off when you need a goal and you're replacing them with a midfielder and the fans don't care, they're not bothered by it, then you know that you've had a bad game. And I think people are just quite happy to see them go at the end of the season and see what else comes in to replace them. But I think the two of them just kind of sum up everything that I said earlier. They're just not ruthless anymore. They're not clinical. Whereas you look at Celtic's front three, and you know that if a chance falls to Jota, if a chance falls to Kyogo or Maeda, they're going to score. But you just don't expect the Rangers front three to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be a big summer. You do feel that forward line in a lot of the areas in the Rangers squad need completely refreshed. But Ryan, just sort of back to Celtic and how superior they are just now on all fronts domestically. They're obviously massive favourites now to make it 116 trophies this season, and that 117 mark held by Rangers, of course, is now well within their reach. It just shows that how dominant Celtic have been, for the last decade now. Obviously Rangers were out of the league for large parts of that, but they've taken advantage, and even now with Rangers, back in the top flight, they're just still such streets ahead, and it just shows how dominant they are. And with Ange at the helm, they're just not going to be stopped. It just doesn't seem that, does it?
Yeah, I mean, an older generation of Rangers fans must be thinking, how the hell has this happened? I don't think they would ever foreseen in their wildest dreams that Celtic would be on the brink of matching, never mind overtaking the kind of Rangers trophy holders. Obviously, the fans, cherish in high regard. Even with trebles, up till 2016, Rangers fans must have thought, back in the top flight, Celtic have won a treble, still, 4 ahead. And then Brendan Rodgers comes in, wins 4, and it's 11-7, and now Celtic can set a new world record by winning 8.
Yeah.
It's just been a remarkable period of dominance for Celtic, an unprecedented period of dominance for Celtic. And, obviously apart from that blip during the 10-in-a-row season, they've just, it's been incredible, really. Just kind of like you touched upon there, I know Rangers have got a massive summer ahead and there's going to be a massive rebuild, but at the same time, Celtic aren't going to stand still. They're going to be adding more quality. I think a new goalkeeper could be maybe on the short list.
Right.
Maybe another midfielder. There'll keep a couple outgoings as well. So Ange will, he'll be desperate now to, if he wins a treble, that's that ticked off the list, but he'll be desperate now to make his mark the Champions League. They put in a number of good performances earlier in the season, but they fell short and ultimately didn't get the points on board to even finish third. So I think that Celtic managers are judged in their European performances as well, and I think that's where Ange will want to make his mark. And if Celtic can can continue their domestic dominance as well as putting a marker down in Europe, then even better times are ahead.
Aye, and it's fair to say, as you say, that under Ange Postecoglou, Celtic are not going to rest in their laurels at all.
No.
He knows that. But
I think as
just
well, just a big thing as well
Sorry.
on Ange. I think he's won the respect of the board. I think that if the board give him money, they trust him to get it right. In years gone by under kind of Neil Lennon, even Brendan Rodgers, who had probably one of the worst, that's an absolute appalling transfer record, squandering millions of pounds on duds really. I mean, and you can pick out maybe 2 or 3 players that haven't worked, but the vast majority of his signings have been, have hit the ground running, have contributed massively. So yeah, as I say, there's a huge trust in Ange from the board, from the fans. It's just a massive feel-good factor at Celtic just now, and I think the next challenge is to, I think, make his mark in Europe.
Yeah, without doubt. Okay, Doug, just obviously yesterday, Michael Beale, after the game, his comments were quite strong. He's adamant that the club needs a huge rebuild, one of the biggest transfer rebuilds in years, as he put it. I mean, obviously that's been already sort of known, within the fans and so on. But I mean, it's going to be a massive summer. It's going to be huge. For you, how many sort of need to leave the squad? If you're going to name names as well, and where do they really need to strengthen priority areas?
I think it's easier to name the places that don't need strengthened that much. I think you're looking at maybe 4 players that are probably guaranteed to sort of stay and play, and that's James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, Todd Cantwell, and Nico Raskin. I think apart from that, everybody else is at risk, and
right.
I think that's probably fair. And even then, if there's an upgrade at right back, obviously Tavernier, what he's done going forward has been sensational, but he's getting on a bit now. And like we saw yesterday, he's still prone to a bit of an error at the back post. So even then, he could even be up for it. But I think Goldson, Cantwell, and Raskin, especially, I think the 3 of them will be fine. Apart from that, who knows? And I think if Beale can get sort of signings to be kind of similar to Cantwell and Raskin, it will be all right in the end. I think the 2 of them have done well since they came in. I thought Cantwell was really good yesterday, probably Rangers' best player. And I think he's surprised people as well, because I don't think many people expected him to sort of get stuck in the way he does. I think a lot of people expected the sort of toughness of Scottish football to kind of take him down a bit, but he seems quite happy to get stuck in. He's obviously, like, I think there was a few times yesterday, him and Greg Taylor were at it, him and Cal McGregor were at it, so he's not afraid to sort of get stuck in. He can play as well, so yeah, I think if you get players like him, it won't be as bad as many people expect, but it's going to be a big rebuild, and it could end up taking another 2 seasons before they sort of get fit it. I know Celtic did it last year with Postecoglou, but they had the players to sell to sort of get the funds there, so obviously they were able to get rid of sell Edward, Ayer, Christie, whoever else, to then spend the money, and Rangers just don't have that option. They're also going to free up a lot of wages, but apart from that, who you really want to get money for, you might get sort of a couple of million back for Davies if he goes back to England. You maybe get a couple of million for Glenn Kamara, Hadji, but apart from that, there's not really anybody in the squad that's going to sell for any sort of decent fee, and I think that's going to be Rangers' biggest problem, was getting the players in for the right price. They should really complain too much if they sign 4 or 5 free transfers, because at the end of the day you can spend 5 million on something that don't turn out well, whereas most of Rangers' best signings over the last few years have been the ones that they pay little money for. So you kind of have to trust that Michael Beale knows what he wants and sort of let him go for who he wants to sign and just get behind him in that sense. But yeah, it's going to be massive for Rangers over the summer.
Yeah, and as you say, a good point there is that it might take more than just one window, especially the fact that Beale's really just in the door this season. All right, we'll go to the first semi-final, obviously, on Saturday. Inverness coming out on top against Falkirk, a 3-0 victory. Ryan, Thistle, obviously, very impressive on the day. You took the game in, of course. What did you make of the contest as a whole?
I actually thought Falkirk played pretty well, to be honest, especially in the first half. I was actually pretty impressed with the kind of possession when they had the ball. They obviously fluffed a chance as well by hitting the post when it was 1-0.
Yeah.
I thought Falkirk played well, but Inverness, I suppose, were fortunate with the penalty. That damn,
What do you thought of using the penalty?
The rules have to change. It ultimately comes down to the handball rule, which needs to change.
Right.
I think it's ruining the game, and I'm sure probably everybody involved as a punter and as a player would probably agree it's ruining the game. What's he meant to do? It's impossible. Right. It's a natural reaction to have his arm there. He's not intentionally put it there to block the ball. So I think it's so cruel, especially in a game of that magnitude for Falkirk, where if they were to get to the final, it could be truly transformational in terms of club with the finances that come with it. So in the end, it was Inverness that were the Canamairs victorious, and across the 90 minutes, they probably deserved it. I think 3-0 scoreline probably flattered them a wee bit. But I think it's easy to completely rule Inverness out of causing a cup shock. You look at Celtic this season, they've been formidable, and obviously Inverness are in Scotland's second tier. So, but Inverness they're a bit of a kind of a bogey team for Celtic. They've caused quite a few problems Scottish Cup over the last couple of decades. Super Caledonian comes to mind. Even Mark O'Neill's team fell to a 1-0 defeat in the Highlands. And I think obviously the day that was it Josh? What's his name again?
Josh Meekins.
Josh Meekins with the famous handball incident. And that was a handball.
Let's get that in there.
And that was a handball, but again, Inverness won that one, and obviously had Virgil van Dijk playing that day, who we spoke about earlier. So, I think Celtic can't afford to underestimate Inverness. They've got to go in with the same mindset and treat them with utmost respect. Otherwise, they're capable. They're capable of causing a cup upset if Celtic take them lightly. So, Celtic will go in heavy favourites. The scoreline can be whatever they want it to be if they're on their game, but as I say, they can't afford to underestimate Inverness, and it'll be a great day out for everybody connected with the club, and it's quite a fairy tale considering they were knocked out at the Queen's Park.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's quite a fairy tale. So if they go on to win it, it would be unbelievable.
It would be, and Dukes, just to continue that, it would be an incredible achievement for obviously Billy Dodds in charge. I suppose it is just a wee bit of a shame that they're meeting a rampant Celtic in the final. Of course, it will still be a great spectacle for the players and the fans going along to the game. A day that they won't forget, regardless of the result. But it's just going to be hugely, hugely tough for Inverness, isn't it?
It is, but what a job Billy Dodds has done there. I've got to say, over the last. They also got to the playoff final last year. Looked like they were down and out this year as well from the playoffs. Yeah. Over the last couple of months, they've got right in there. It wouldn't surprise you if they got to the final again. And then also to get to the Scottish Cup final is just brilliant. I actually completely disagree on the penalty thing, though. I think that was a stonewall penalty under any rules of the game.
So you don't think the rule's wrong then in that regard?
I think the rule isn't great, but I think under any interpretation of the handball rule over the last 20 years, that's a handball. He's turned his back, he's put his hand up there. I don't really see what the referee could do about that one, but it's all about opinions, isn't it? But I think Inverness, they weren't great in the first half on Saturday. I thought Falkirk were probably the better team, but kind of like Celtic yesterday, Inverness were just ruthless. Billy Mackay, he's just an unbelievable finisher at that level, and he showed it again. I think his third goal on Saturday was excellent. I think most people would have went for that with their head, but he just finished it brilliantly with his foot, and to get up and sort of just take the pace off it and just put it right past the keeper was brilliant. But there was a lot of good performances in the Falkirk team as well. I thought Cal Morrison, apart from his miss, was decent. Thought Kai Kennedy was really good, and then at the back, I thought they were pretty solid. Obviously, I know Inverness scored 3 goals, but for the most part, they were solid. It was just the 3 chances that Inverness got, they scored. But I think when it comes to the final, we could pretend that there might be a cup upset, but there's not going to be. It's Celtic will cruise that, and they've already got their name on the trophy.
Yeah, I hope it isn't too ugly for Inverness in that regard. Obviously, it will be a great day out for the fans and the players, of course. As I say, memories to cherish forever. But you'd imagine that Celtic would go on to win the game and secure the treble, of course. All right, lads, that's that for today. Thanks very much, Ryan and Mark for joining me. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. The episode will go up on our YouTube channel as well this afternoon. So if you want to rewatch the start, if you missed some of it, then go to our YouTube channel and catch it there. We've obviously got a fan reaction video as well from yesterday out on our YouTube. They always do pretty well, always pretty popular. So go along and check that one out as well. Celtic fans obviously reacting to the win yesterday after the game. So go and check that one out as well on YouTube. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Ryan, Mark, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.
Man, cheers, guys.